absolute Knicks streets. The MSG crowd wasn't buzzing tonight because, man, the Knicks were lacking early, but some players showed up towards the second half, and we'll break it down tonight as Tyler Kolek was a standout performer in a disgusting loss as the Knicks' second unit was lacking chemistry, losing 103 to 120. What's up, chat? Let's break this thing down. As the starters sat, and the Knicks sat 8 players, fam. Hukporti and Shamet were supposed to play, but they were out with illness. But the other starters, plus Josh Hart, sat out and were rested in this one. As the New York Knicks, man, were down over 30, 35 at some point. But they battled and they clawed their way back in the second half off some good performances from Kolek, fam. And he really took his opportunities tonight. Finished 20 points with 6 assists, 4 rebounds, a steal, 7 of 13 from the field in a plus 10 performance, fam, in just 23 minutes. What did you make of Tyler Kolek's performance, fam? We'll break it all down right now, fam, and we'll bring up the highlights as the New York Knicks, man, are still building chemistry, obviously, but the second unit, man, was a lot of side-to-side action, and the Washington Wizards' defense was really tenacious and hellacious in this one. A lot of side-to-side action, but Clarkson was a little sloppy, got a few buckets, could have got this and one, but missed the free throw. But also, I thought we really did miss Hukporti, right? My big strong takeaway is that Yarbor Sele, who started at the 5, was the biggest, the poorest point of the New York Knicks defense, right? Going up against Marvin Bagley, and he really struggled, did Yarbor Sele. So, look, there's a lot of learnings from this game, and we're going to break it all down, fam. I'm not going to overreact to a preseason loss, but you never want to lose by that margin. But obviously, Mike Brown did, put some of the more informed players to let them finish the game out. I thought Brogdon had a solid performance. He got the start. Deuce McBride hit a few shots late, but he was sloppy in the first half, getting stripped. He was getting turning it over as well. But yeah, basically, I think 2 of the biggest standouts for me, right? We don't give out the game balls during a loss, but I thought Kevin McCullough and Tyler Kolek, right? 2 of the younger faces, sophomores coming back from last season. And I think, if you're looking for a positive, that's the positive I'm going to give y'all. Kolek was a standout, a slick performer, and I thought Kevin McCullough banged knees and, looked like he was going to sit out, but fought his way back and got back into the game and finished as a solid performer, fam. Trey Jemison, also a really solid performer. Tosan Awoma, too, as we ring up the grades in this one. Kevin McCullough, man, 5 dimes. He's moving and grooving, fam. I think defensively, the starters struggled, which was Deuce with Clarkson, Brogdon, Dardier, and Yarbor Sele. Man, that's too small. But obviously, when you're sitting 8 players, you got to take this game with a huge grain of salt, fam. But we're looking for the takeaways. What can we take away from this one? Well, we're not going to start a ball game with Deuce, Clarkson, Brogdon, Yarbor Sele, and Dardier. Now, we're going to get to Dardier in a minute, but yeah, Yarbor Sele was the real sore point for me personally on the defensive side, right? Not only was he giving up about 3 inches to Marvin Bagley, but yeah, we're getting out-rebounded, out-muscled, and out-tussled as well. But yeah, Washington came to play. They were really physical, and they obviously were hitting their threes early, fam. It was raining threes. They got some talent. And I think whilst our first-round pick is probably going to convey, I do think Washington's probably going to overachieve this season, right? Because they've got a couple of the vets who didn't play tonight. But I think Bob Carrington, Keyshawn George, AJ Johnson, Trey Johnson, they're stacking some young talent. Alex Sarr, how could I forget, the number 1 overall pick? I think Washington, I got to check the overs unders, but I do think they're going to probably overachieve, fam, this season. Chris Gotti's in the building. Salute to you. Shez V. Paula, great to see ya. Mellow Mike. Everyone in the building. Tony from Denver, salute. Mello says Kevin did well. Yep. He got hit on the thigh. Yeah, man. I like his ability to battle, and get back into it, fam. As you see Kat, OG, Brunson were in the crowd, fam. Enjoying a night's rest. And look, I like the decision. Sit the starters, bring them back in the final game. But yeah, more disappointing that the second string unit didn't take some of their chances. Shout out to Dermot in the building. So yeah, let's talk about who took their chances, who didn't take their chance, fam. As I pull up the starters, like obviously Pacome Dardier was really looking forward to seeing him shine. Now he started like a house on fire. Two big threes from Dardier, man, in the first minute of the game, and you thought, man, this is going to be a Pacome Dardier show out. But outside of that, man, he basically went silent. Defensively struggled a lot, got beaten backdoor. Very kind of unlike Pacome Dardier. Not going to zero in on him too much. I just felt like he didn't really take his chance. He got the start, and obviously he's going to continue to hear his name in these trade conversations because the Knicks do need to. Well, the Knicks will be looking to move a young player on if they do want to fit Shamet and Brogdon on the roster. And everything that I've seen is that Brogdon is going to stay. I mean, Brogdon was solid in this game. As Yabu hit one of his threes early, we see. I felt like Brogdon was okay, solid. Had a couple of nice savvy vet moves, putting his younger opponent in the weight room, taking him strong to the rack. But I think Brogdon's going to stay, but Shamet out with an illness. Same with Ariel Hukporti. So maybe those two caught something, hanging out in the same spots. But hopefully they're back soon and a speedy recovery for those guys. But yeah, nothing serious. And Hart still recovering, I think, from the illness in the back. And the other five starters sat with Mitch, Cat, OG, McCall, and JB. Right, but obviously, Deuce McBride was a guy I'm looking for him to take over this ball game, but he was just too sloppy early turning it over. Now Garrison Matthews, with Shamet missing, Garrison Matthews didn't really take his chance either. I think this was a perfect opportunity for Garrison Matthews to really put real separation. Now he wasn't terrible by any stretch, but I just think that he didn't really, seize the moment, fam. He didn't capture it, in the words of Eminem. So we're going to wait to see what happens in the final game, man. I think it's going to be a roll call. Mike Brown's going to bring the starters back in the final game against Charlotte, fam. And I want to see these starters back because it was ugly at times. But look, lacking some chemistry, these guys finished the game strong. And again, I got to give my big shout out to Tyler Kolek. We just talked about Dardier not taking his chances. Kolek took his chance, fam. So I got to give a big shout out. What are your thoughts on TKO's performance, fam? As we continue to shout you guys out, hit that like button if you enjoy the stream and subscribe to our channel to keep the streets buzzing. Chris Gotti says Yabu cannot play center. He lacks the height. Absolutely, fam. You're on the money as always, and I got to say, like I said at the top of the show, I think, if you're using these opportunities to, to experiment and see what things are all about, then I think you learnt that Yabu can't really play the five against a bigger guy like Marvin Bagley, fam. And I just felt like we were, our starting unit tonight was lacking size with Brogdon, Clarkson, and Deuce. That's minuscule, fam, in the backcourt and the wing position, right? Now, a lot of people might say, okay, that's our unit. That's going to be the 5-man bench unit. Well, I could also say that we don't know. Hukporti so far from, if we're rewarding on performances, Huck Porty's in my 10-man. So what does that mean for Shamit, fam? Is Shamit maybe missing out on these opportunities? Possibly. You guys let me know. As the Knicks have been killing fast break points all preseason, they could only muster up 5 fast break points tonight, only 4 second chance points, and we lost points in the paint. Now, we're also, key thing to note, guys, is our second string unit going up against Washington's second string unit. So normally you could say, okay, second string unit going up against another team's starters, but no, that wasn't the case. We were actually going up against their second string unit. So some concerning things to take away in terms of Yabu, right, playing at the 5. But if it's smaller sample off the bench, then I could understand. But he definitely needs to start, providing more of a boost offensively. Still a bit streaky from downtown so far from what we've seen, fam. And I'm looking for guys to step up. It wasn't really a Jordan Clarkson performance, fam. So let's pull up the numbers. We take a look at the plus minus, right? Trey Jemison plus 11, right, with 9 points, a perfect 3 of 3 from the field, and he got 4 rebounds. I like Trey Jemison, and shout out to the front office for locking him down on a 2-way. Right, so far I've already seen enough. That's a big tick for Trey Jemison the third, locking up a physical big man. You never know what's going to happen with Huck and Mitch and their health situation. So it's a good thing to note that we do have a Trey Jemison on the 2-way. So far, so good with him. Also, plus minus, McCullough finished 3 of 6 in 23 minutes. He was really good. 5 dimes and 2 blocks from the young sophomore, fam. Bang knees and came back and finished the ball game out. Did K-Mac. So what are your takeaways from Kevin McCullough, man? Pulling out the 3-point shot in that one. Yep, Graz says Huck is definitely the 10-man. Shout out to you, my friend. Agree. Chris Gotti says McCullough is tough. Absolutely. Chris likes Jamison as well. Sims 2.0. Yeah, it looks like he's a little bit more adept down low in the low block. He's got a little hook shot too. Paula says it as well. What we're all thinking, fam. Good. Let Washington play great. Better pick for us, fam. The tricky thing is they have to be in the, not be the 8th worst team. So if there can be some really bad teams out west, then maybe Washington can pick up some wins out east, Paula. That's where I can see their wins coming from. Because if you think about it, they could theoretically beat, Charlotte. They could beat Chicago. They could beat Indiana, who are missing Hallie. They could be beaten, ATL possibly. They could be beaten Toronto. Don't forget, no Alex Sarr, no AJ Johnson, no Chris Middleton tonight, no CJ McCollum. A few other guys are missing as well. And so, look, I think Brian Keefe is a good coach. I think he's going to get the best out of Washington, and they're slowly going to start to build and build some of that consistency. Also, yeah, agree with Mellow Mike on this one, man. It was good. It was a good loss in terms of, a good level setter to find out. We got to see where our bench sits, like Mello says. I think just seeing guys, who's going to take their opportunities, who's not. And, if we go all the way back to Summer League, guys, we see some of the overreactions about Tyler Kolek. We'll look at him tonight in an NBA setting playing with NBA pros. You see Tyler Kolek, man, he looked more comfortable, fam, than a bodybuilder in a gym, and so I really like Tyler Kolek's game and McCullough's game as well, finding Alex Len, who got some extended minutes in this one. I think Alex Len's probably going to get cut, but, he's a camp body. A little sloppy for me was Alex Len down low. But definitely we were more sound defensively with Len and Jamison on the floor tonight. And Yabu playing the 5 is a train wreck, man. We just don't have any rim defense. They were getting all sorts of looks at the rim, driving, dunking, finishing, and Yabu was also getting beaten backdoor as well. So look, I think pretty much what I expected when we signed Yabu. He's going to be an offensive threat. Defensively, man, I'm not holding my breath. I'm really not holding my breath defensively when it comes to Yabu. But look, he can rebound okay, and he fights. He gives effort. But yeah, hopefully, a lot better with him at the 4, and I think Huck Porty at the 5 with Mitch at the 5, I think is where we need to eat, fam. Yeah, as Grays says, Dardier needs to stay focused, pay attention to ball and the man, growing pains. Definitely, and you feel like maybe it was a little bit of nerves, butterflies, He knows that his name's been mentioned, and obviously getting the start, it's an opportunity to really, show out. And some of these players kind of, go into their shell a little bit, but he started the game strong. Pacome Dardier, I mean, you can't ask for a better start than to hit your first three-point looks, right? And so Dardier started well, but then we started to get beat defensively all over the place. And look, a lot of the breakdowns did come, again, because of Yabusele. But look, overall, again, Yabusele was solid offensively, 4 of 8, 2 of 5 from downtown, 11 points, but just a minus 33. I mean, that tells the story for him. I mean, to be a minus 33 in 23 minutes is porous, right? Got 2 dimes, 5 rebounds, including 4 offensive. But he was making Marvin Bagley out there look like a solid vet out there. And Marvin Bagley's been moving around the league. And so, yeah, he was given up size, right? And look, a part of that is on Mike Brown. Like, he clearly wasn't interested in winning this game. He just wanted to get a look at Yabu at the 5. But if you're interested in winning this ball game, I would have got Trey Jemison, and I would have got, Len, and also, the other big man that we had out there tonight, fam. We're missing, obviously, Huck Porty. But Paula still says Dardier needs to stay aggressive. That is a great point, too. There was a lot of times I saw Dardier kind of pass up, and including Kolek. And you got to give Kolek his shout-outs. He was really unselfish with this one. So many times Kolek actually got into the paint, and I'm like, man, what are y'all doing? And he was basically looking at a layup, and he kicked it back out into traffic. So what Kolek was impressive with 20 points, 6 dimes, 4 rebound. He could have easily finished with 25 points in this one, right? But this was an up and down, rec center kind of game, fam, Rucker Park. Chris also says Yabu needs to be more aggressive. Yep, building blocks. I know I'm not alone here, but I don't like the Yabu fit on the team. I think he definitely shouldn't be playing 5. I think he can fit at the 4, fam. But I think, look, there might be some minutes limitations, fam. Maybe 15 to 20 for Yabusele instead of 23 tonight, going up against that extra size. But look, Marvin Bagley really is he's a stretch 5 man, and really Yabusele to me is a 4. I kind of felt that when we signed him, and you might get away with a couple of minutes at the 5 to get that 5 out look, but as long as he's playing next to Cat or just somebody bigger, fam, and we don't give up those rebounds. But yeah, I think Huck Porty was one of the biggest, stock risers from tonight without playing in the game, right? Did Huck Porty, he's had a solid preseason, only missed tonight due to illness. And so, that, Huck's going to come good, and he's going to come back and continue to play well, right? Things that I'm also looking out for, extended minutes from Kevin McCullough. He took his chance. And so great to see breathe a sigh of relief that he was able to finish it out. 23 minutes, 3 of 6. 5 dimes and 2 blocks. The man is just productive on the defensive side. I'm not looking for much offense from Kevin McCullough, but anything you get on the offensive side to me is kind of gravy. But defensively, you throw him out there and he's going to get deflections, he's going to get steals, he's going to muddy it up. That's what he did at Kansas, and that's what he's been doing throughout his career. So Kevin McCullough, man, one of the older prospects that we have, and coming through as a sophomore. But what is he, 25 now? Right? If he's healthy, he's going to push. He's going to push for some situational minutes, in my opinion. I hope Mike Brown is paying attention, because second nights are back-to-backs. You need another guy to handle the rock. 5 dimes from the wing position is what I'm talking about. Shout out to Carlos in the building. Glad to see that extended run with the bench unit. Defense needs some work. Yep. Agree, Carlos. And I think, defensively, you're looking at McCullough. He was solid. Trey Jemison, solid defensively. I think Tosan Ivoma as well, giving him a shout out. The size and the length look solid. And I think he looks more ready than Pacome. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts on the possible trade front, fam? If the organization is going off the theory that, hey, we want the guys to help us win this year, then I can understand where they're coming from with a potential Pacome situation, right? Tyler Kolek took his chance tonight, right? He might be sticking around for good right now. We need some playmaking and ball handling still. Malcolm Brogdon's health could be a question mark, right? I like the playmaking from Kevin McCullough, so I'm glad that we picked up his option on the two-way, right? Clarkson never seen a shot he never liked, and so you can't really rely on him for ball movement. Although here, man, he was firing on all cylinders. And so, yeah, one of the odd men out that I'm looking at right now is Landry. Hasn't really taken his chances just yet. And Pacome Dardier, right? So far, I think if a team really like what they saw in Kolek tonight, that might change the thinking. If the offer is real nice, what do you guys think? But yeah, overall, the two-way guys are looking promising. Carlos, 100%. Smart signings, all of them, from Tosan to Trey Jemison and Kevin. Yep, Chris also likes number 20, which is Tosan. James Baker, let's go, fam. So the New York Knicks are 3-1, and we will conclude preseason, man. Thank God. We're going to get to the real action, right? Our final game on Friday night, Knicks, 7:30 tip. Couple of days to look up some film. We'll bring the starters back, no doubt, I think, for that final game. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, I think Pacome Dardier shooting is something that I'm really hanging my hat on. But defensively, I was underwhelmed, tonight. But if he continues to knock down open shots, then that he could see some opportunities, right? The size and the length is in his favor, and you can't overreact to one ball game too much, right? I'm just breaking it down from a perspective of, okay, if this is a fair, eat what you kill, kill what you eat kind of situation, then whoever's earning their keep deserves to stay. And so far, I think Tyler Kolek, massive performance tonight, right? Landry did not play due to illness, and we'll see what the final game entails. But a key noteworthy situation is that, as I bring up the story from Ian Begley, right? So Ian posted this earlier before the game. So it's worth noting for the Knicks, right? Saturday is the final day that teams can waive a player on a non-guaranteed contract, fam. And guess when we play? We play on Friday, fam. So the New York Knicks will continue to showcase, and then they'll have to make their decision on the three non-guaranteed dudes. Obviously Alex Len as well, but he's basically going to get cut. But Garrison Matthews, Landry Shamet, and Malcolm Brogdon. The Knicks, as currently constructed, only have one roster spot available, right? We only have one roster spot available, and this Saturday we have to make our cut. So if you are Leon Rose right now, fam, everyone in the building, if you're Leon Rose, let me know. Who is your cut, right? Who are your cuts? Who's making the final spot, fam? If it's out of these three guys, I've got to say, based on performances, it's a toss-up between Malcolm Brogdon and Garrison Matthews. But from a roster need perspective, Brogdon gets that spot. Garrison Matthews is a shooter. We do have Clarkson. We've got Deuce McBride. He's kind of a, he's kind of like a cherry on top. But Malcolm Brogdon, I think you need, and I think Tyler Kolek so far sticks around based on his performances. A pocket Knicks now. Salute, says Tyler Kolek. Look confident today. Yep, 100%. And I think he's been putting in the work. You got to shout him out for what he's been able to do. Since Summer League, he looked very comfortable, right? Didn't get the start. As you see, this is the starting lineup tonight, undersized. And so that's why I'm not really reading in too much into the results. I mean, Washington are a very disruptive, very long defensive kind of team, fam. So once again, as I try to look at the positives and the takeaways, fam, I really think Kolek could help us out this season. And I do think Kevin McCullough is a kind of an emergency wing who's ready if you need to give you those defensive minutes, right? Now, if you look at the box score, Pacome Dardier finished 2 of 7, 2 of 6 from downtown, hit both free throws, got 6 rebounds. So you see the length, able to rake in a couple of rebounds, 8 points, 2 fouls, 1 turnover. I just don't feel like he was aggressive enough in certain moments. But obviously the ball was moving well, but it was a lot of side to side action. We need north to south, fam, south to north action, not east to west. And you got to credit Washington's defense. They did make it very disruptive. Now, in credit to Brogdon, he was definitely getting the ball moving. He's not a shoot first kind of point guard, but he's looking to set guys up. And we weren't able to really do that because Deuce wasn't hitting shots, and Dardier was a little bit timid, and Clarkson was inefficient with this one. But as I said earlier, Mike Brown wasn't really caring about winning the ball game. He was just trying to get a longer look, at these guys, which is fair enough, right? So on Pacome Dardier and the possibility of him contributing this season, Mike Brown says, Pacome, you just got to continue to understand how big he is. He's long, he's a big wing. At times, he doesn't utilize it. He definitely has a chance to be a player in this league for a long time. And you want to help try to speed that development up, right? So work in progress for Pacome Dardier. Mike Brown hit the nail there. I thought his 6 rebounds is solid. It's just, defensively, they needed to, feel him more. He needed to be more aggressive, I think, on both ends. Use that length to get blocks and get steals, just like Kevin McCullough was able to, right? Now, Kevin McCullough has got, 5-6 years on Pacome Dardier. So you kind of understand how ready Kevin McCullough is versus Pacome. But obviously, Pacome Dardier comes in with that first-round pick label, and you want to see more from him, I think, on both sides when he gets those opportunities, right? Coming from CC, salute, says Alex Len and Matt Ryan, they're definitely on the cut. Absolutely. So they're the first phone calls I'm making. Shout out to them for their service during camp. Nice camp bodies. But I think those guys will go to the Westchester Knicks, and we'll see how that plays out. Building Block says Brogdon needs to lose a couple pounds. Yeah, I think he does look a little big, Brogdon, and he was using that old man strength to put a couple of these young fellas in the weight room, taking them strong to the rack. But yeah, Brogdon does what he does here, sets up Yabusele for the pick and pop, for the nice pop. You wanted to see more of that. Unfortunately, Yabu just couldn't hit them early, and Clarkson didn't start efficient either. But yeah, the Knicks fell into that hole. Third quarter was, man, it was ugly. But yeah, again, things will change drastically when you have a big man that can protect the rim, right? So for me, Brogdon's staying. CC agrees, says Brogdon is our J kid type. Yeah. I think from a playmaking perspective, I think Brogdon's going to be really solid for us if he's healthy. And so, you got to keep him around. And I think the fact that the Knicks pursued Brogdon for 2 months, the fact that he's looked okay, no, I don't think there's any reason to cut him right now. It's between Shamet, Matthews, and Pacome. Now, if Matthews and Shamet aren't taking their chances, then there's no need to trade Pacome or Kolek. It's only if you really want to keep Shamet or Matthews, right? So you really got to ask yourself: has Shamet or Matthews really forced the issue? Now, so far, Matthews, I would say, has looked better, and he's looked pretty solid before tonight. But I think tonight was probably one of Matthews', worst performances, going up against his former team. I think one of his former teams. Uh, Melo says Pacome is great, but I feel he lacks some maturity. He has to be aggressive. He can't continue depending on those outside shots. He's better than that. Yeah, Melo, I agree. I think there was a few good opportunities for him to drive and use his size, but I think again I want to pay credit to Washington's defense because they were tough. I mean, they were stripping Deuce McBride a lot. They were stripping Brogdon. They were playing very aggressive defensively, and a lot of their guys got into foul trouble. Preseason they maybe give you a little bit more of a leeway to be aggressive. Maybe during the season they're going to pick up those fouls, but with Dardier, I think it's all about his handle. He's really got to tighten that up. Like you got to make it real tight, fam. If you're 6'9" and you really have a loosey handle, you ain't going nowhere but east to west. You ain't going to be able to go downhill, especially against a good defender. This is the NBA, and it's a great learning experience, I think, for Pacome Dardier. Look, I mean, we need to be realistic. The man's very young. He is a young man, but he needs more experience. He needs more seasoning and more minutes. Unfortunately, Tibbs just didn't give him enough opportunities. I said it last season. I think Dardier should have played in a good 15 to 20 more games last season, like meaningful games. And I think that would have really helped out his development. But look, the size, the tools, that's always going to be there. And that's what's going to keep him in the league, I think, for probably 8 to 10 years. I think Pacome Dardier will be an NBA player. It's always just going to come down to what is Leon Rose thinking right now? Is he thinking, hey, this is our year. We need to win a championship. We need to make it to the finals. I can't leave one of these vets on the waiver wire like Garrison Matthews or Shamet. That's who I think he's battling against right now. Or Shamet and Matthews are battling against Dadier right now. Right. You got to swing your opinion on Tyler Kolek. If you were kind of like, okay, we don't really need Tyler Kolek, I think today really changes that, right? Based on his performance and how how adept he looked, fam, at moving the rock. You see the ball moving, and Kolek found Kevin McCullough with that one. I think Ricardo hits it here as well. I think Shamet not playing tonight tells you everything you need to know. Shamet gonna take that spot. So that's interesting, man. Out with illness, so is Huck Bordy. And yeah, I think you might be onto something, Ricardo. Normally when a front office or a coach have seen everything they need to see, it's like, okay, let's give these other guys an opportunity to showcase because we've seen Shamet and we've seen Huck Porty, and those guys have looked, solid at various, spots. So I think tonight was all about McCullough, all about Tosan, Pacome Dardier, and Kolek, and these guys. Look, the front office really likes Shamit, and so, man, I mean, Kolek's going to make things very difficult for them, right? If Shamit does make it, because one of these guys is going to have to get traded, right, for Shamit to make it. And I'm thinking, man, like I'd hate to part with Pacome Dardier, right? But if the front office is hell bent on keeping Shamit, I mean, me personally, I would probably let Shamit walk. We've got other guys. We've got Brogdon, Deuce. We've got Clarkson. Obviously McCullough now. Diawara, who was solid, I thought. Diawara probably had his best performance of Summer League. Started a little shaky, but I think had a couple of nice moments running the floor. Nice give and go action. Mohamed Diawara finished in a +9 situation in 6 minutes. Was a perfect 100% from the field, 2 of 2, and hit his 1-3 as well, which is great to see Mohamed Diawara hit down that catch and shoot 3. A couple of rebounds as well, 5 points +9. So look, Diawara we know is already on that standard roster deal. Look forward to seeing him develop as the years progress. Is he now in the building, going to affect him being in the building, affecting the future of Pacome Dardier? That's a possible talking point, especially with McCullough and Tosan here. Johnny Salute, yep, feeling good despite the loss. Ready to get at it on Friday and wrap up this preseason action against Charlotte. Preseason's all about experimenting, fam, and I think we got to see plenty of that tonight, man. It was ugly in most of the spots, a few bright spots, but let's see what we got, fam, against Charlotte. I think it'll be the full dress rehearsal. I think we're going to see all the starters return. Huck Porty and Shamit probably recovering from their illness. Josh Hart, not sure where he's at, but though, we don't really need to rush Josh Hart back because he's a veteran and, we all know what Josh Hart is about. So I think Hart will be ready when the season starts. But against Charlotte on Friday night, I would like to see, more of these situationals play, extended minutes, give these guys time to build more chemistry because they are going to have to play together in the second unit. But if there's one bright spot, I like the substitutions from Mike Brown, where he's always trying to get a couple of starters in and a couple of starters with the second unit so that it's not an entirely different 5-man unit, right? So what usually happens is he'll take OG and he'll take Mitch out. He'll bring Yabu in to play with Cat, and then he'll bring Deuce in, and then he'll bring Mitch and OG back with some of the bench guys and vice versa. So he does like to mix it up. But yeah, Deuce disappointing offensively tonight, 4 of 12, 2 of 9 from downtown. That's okay because hopefully next game he's back to being Deuce. And I think, he can always have an off shooting night. That's okay. So far, he's been solid in preseason. But man, the one lone standout, or the biggest standout, was Tyler Kolek. So let's give some more shine to Tyler, fam. 20 points, 6 dimes, 4 rebounds, and was a guy that finished +10 in a blowout loss. And look, he looked comfortable, was getting into the paint. He was one of the guys that was getting by his defender and forcing it, getting contact, finishing in traffic as well. As the Knicks were down, man, 23 at the half, giving up 75 points, right? So lots to think about defensively. But Kolek was running the second unit from the second unit. And so Technically, he's the third string, but he did his chances, man. No harm. Mellow Mike says Kolek thumbs up. Mellow Mike roots for Kolek. Yeah, he's an easy guy to root for, fam. He just is. And, he did have one big performance in Summer League. It was very underwhelming for the rest of Summer League, but he had that big 30-point game. So he is capable of scoring the rock. He is TKO. It's just going to come down to, being ready when his number's called, fam, in an NBA setting. And if we're looking at our potential point guard depth, right? Clarkson, not really a point guard. Deuce, not a point guard. Brogdon, health up and down. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that Kolek is going to stay now, right? I'm at the point now, unless an amazing offer comes through off the back of this performance, right? I'm pretty confident in saying that the front office will keep Tyler Kolek. Now, I think it's a battle of one of these wings, Garrison, Matthews, Shamet, or Dardier, because you've got Diawara, you've got Tosan, you've got Kevin McCullough as well, you've got the two starting wing stops. I mean, that's a lot of wings. And so I think one of Shamet, Matthews, or two of Shamet, Matthews, or Dardier need to go. I think that's what the balance is ultimately going to be down to when it comes to that. I mean, Yabu can probably play more of a wing role as well. CC says our 3 two-way players are strong and they're going to push those guys in front of them, not to get complacent. Yeah, I can't be more happy with the two-way signings, fam, because I think we finally nailed it in terms of guys that we can depend upon if we need. For me, like two-way players are meant to be guys that you can develop, yes, but they should also be players that, in a pinch, can actually play. And I think this season we got guys that can really give you minutes. With Trey Jemison, I mean, he's a grown man out there, and so is Tosan of Oma, and K Mac as well. So yeah, if we're looking at our point guard situations, fam, there might be nights where we need to rein Clarkson in, and Deuce plays more of that 2 role, and so Colette could really get some opportunities, right? Not gonna lie. So if we're going off last season's draft, right? Huck Porty, home run. Kevin McCullough looks solid so far. Kolek, the story isn't written yet on him, and of course Pacome Dardier was drafted as well. If they all stick around, I think that's going to come back to really help the New York Knicks with the draft that we had last season, right? Because I love this dime. I love this feed from Kevin McCullough, fam. He did this at Kansas, and he's done it a lot now. Really fed Huck Porty in Summer League. You had Huck Porty talking about McCullough finding him, and here Alex Len finds the easiest bucket he'll ever get, courtesy of Kevin McCullough. And so, yeah, if you can get that playmaking from the wing spot and the 2 guard spot, I think that's gravy, fam. So I really like the pickup of McCullough. All right. Chris says Deuce's handles was too loose. Yeah, Deuce was a little too loose tonight, Chris. I really like to see Deuce take care of the rock better, but you could see he was kind of second guessing, not quite sure of himself tonight. And that happens. That can happen when you play against, an aggressive defense who's always, in the passing lanes. The Knicks weren't able to really get around. The Washington defenders were getting around every screen, and so the Knicks really needed to play smarter, I think, and find some guys on backdoor cuts. They really should have, find the post ups a lot more as well. Alex Len, Yabu, I think should have posted up a bit more as well. There was just a lot of side to side, east to west action that I was not a fan of tonight. But yeah, I guess the silver lining is, as I said earlier, Mike Brown's going to mix up these lineups where it's not going to be all of the 5 bench guys with the 5 starters. I think he's going to mix and match. Like, for example, you could sub out Macau, you throw in Deuce. You sub out OG and you throw in Yabu, right? And then when Cat and someone else need to go to the bench, you can bring, the other two starters back in, and you kind of mix it up that way. Yeah. I've never been a real fan of just playing a 5-man bench unit altogether. Um, there's no reason you should just put all 5 starters on the bench, right? Your starters are starters for a reason, they're going to win you ball games. And so 2 or 3 of them should always be on the floor, I think, at all times. And the bench players kind of fit around them. Whoever complements each other, I think, the best. And we certainly found out tonight that Yabusele, man, does not complement the squad defensively, I think, at the 5. Yeah, like Ricardo saying, and Building Block said earlier, I think if Brogdon wants to try to stay healthy, fam, I think, yeah, shedding a couple pounds might just be best for him. But I think it's probably just some, early lack of conditioning, before the season kicks off. I think, usually players slim down a little bit when the games commence, and they can shed some of that weight a bit easier from the off season, fam. But yeah, so far, I like what I've seen from Brogdon in terms of playing the point and the point guard role. Love him to hit down those threes a bit easier. Great point from Chris G as well. We still haven't seen Hart. We haven't seen Josh Hart in any of these lineups. That's a great point. Yeah, that's definitely been overlooked from my behalf. And I think Hart coming into that second unit, because we know Hart's not going to start. So he is going to add extra playmaking, rebounding, and speed as well, like my man Chris says. So yeah, shout out to Chris on that one. Johnny, shout out, says Brogdon is a true point guard. Yep, I think the court vision just looks, elite. The way he's able to see the floor. Other guys just need to be aggressive because he was setting guys up and they were dribbling it back out, or they were a little bit hesitant. So with that said, I think the final game now, Charlotte. I think, yeah, we're really going to find out with the cuts that need to be made on Saturday. We're going to find out what's the deal with Shamet, right? Who's still on a non-guaranteed deal. Brogdon, who played a lot tonight, is definitely going to make the cut, right? Unless he gets hurt from between now and then. All right, Brogdon's going to stay, but who gets that final spot? Does Dardier hold on to that spot? Does Shamet, is the front office just too high on Shamet and they want to make him a part of this squad, right? It's very, very interesting, fam. Some tough decisions. Even Mike Brown spoke about it earlier today. He spoke about pre-game, how difficult it's going to be. And that's the way we want it, fam. It's never supposed to be easy. We're not in the business of just giving out roster spots like the New York Knicks used to do, fam. We all know we used to just give out some roster spots to the likes of, G League guys. Yep, I can see Hart getting the rebound, yep, going coast to coast and spraying it out for 3. Yeah. Chris, we missed him tonight. 5 fast break points. I mean, we've been feasting with the fast break points in the other 3 games. Only tonight we got 5. Fam, 5 fast break points. And we just kind of weren't sure of ourselves, One thing you get with Josh Hart is, he knows what he's going to do. When he gets that rock, man, he's like a snowball, a Tasmanian devil, fam, in a china shop. He's just going straight to the cup, right? So yeah, I felt like we didn't really make them feel us defensively. 4 steals to 9, right? We've been much better than that in these 3 games before tonight. 4 steals is not going to cut it. 2 blocks. McCullough got both of them, fam. We only finished with 2 blocks for the whole team. Kevin McCullough got both. 17 turnovers, not good enough. And obviously 31% from 3. We have been shooting the 3 ball a lot more, but it's not going down. So we need to, to make sure we're getting those good looks, right? I think Hart will help set some guys up, right? Shout out to Pacome Dardier for the 6 rebounds. Again, I think that was one of the positives from Pacome, and the couple of threes that he hit early. But man, Marvin Bagley was feasting with 11 rebounds in this one, going up against the smaller Yabu. I mean, I haven't really seen no official measurements, but I mean, I won't be surprised if Yabusele is really like a PJ Tucker kind of height, or a Charles Barkley. Some of those guys they say are 6'8", but it's 6'8" in shoes, fam. And really, some of these guys could, Yabu could be 6'6" and change. We just don't know. But he definitely looked very undersized against a guy like Bagley. Shout out to my man Glenn in the building. Glenn says salute. I didn't catch the game, so help me out here. The starters didn't play. Also, from what I'm gathering from the convo, the second unit wasn't up to snuff. Yeah, definitely, Glenn. So yeah, the Knicks sat 8 guys. Shamit and Hakpority had illness, but the other 5 starters didn't play. And I think the second unit was just lacking size. I think that was the biggest issue for me defensively. Offensively, they could do better to create better looks, but I think the offense is freestyling at the moment. I don't think Mike Brown was really calling many plays tonight. So they're still building that chemistry on the offensive side. But I think defensively, yeah, we were too undersized. When you look at the likes of Clarkson, Brogdon, and Deuce, right? I mean, those guys are, none of those guys are taller than 6'5". And so, and then you've got a very undersized power forward in Pacome Dardier as well. So, look, a lot of these things will clean up with extra size. And I really think McCullough should have played more. And I would have loved to see Tosan and Trey Jemison play more as well. But you figure those guys are out of the rotation to start. And Mike Brown is just trying to give these other guys, more opportunities to build that chemistry. And if you want to get, the dust off the cobwebs and get the chemistry growing, you need to play these guys together, right? These are the games you need to, maybe suffer a little bit, take these L's, and try to build some chemistry with these guys. But some bright spots, and then obviously some underwhelming performances in this one. Ricardo says Yabu has not been that impressive thus far. I think, he's been probably the slowest to start out of the new guys. And I think, power forward's his position. I guess on the plus fam tonight, he hit a couple of threes. So, he is coming with that ability to knock them down. He just needs to be better defensively. Rebounding wise, 5 rebounds from Yabu, 4 offensive is okay. But obviously 4 of 8 from the field, 2 of 5 from downtown, but the minus 33. So I think he is going to bring that offense, and he is going to bring more offense than Precious gave us. But, we need him out there next to another big man. I think his rebounding next to Mitch, or rebounding next to Huck, or next to Cat, and I think we're in a really strong position. I can't really see Yabu at the 5, man, in the pick and roll. I mean, it's going to be a all-you-can-eat buffet for the other team. I could see these other teams looking at Yabu at the 5, and they're just going to be aggressive. They had Will Riley and Keyshawn George finishing at the basket like they were Sean Kemp tonight, man. It was a sorry sight, and we needed some rim protection out there, fam. Shout out to Alex Len for that hard foul, and also Trey Jemison was laying some wood out there, and we know that Huck Porty is going to lay some wood as well. So yeah, I'm not too worried about Yabu from that perspective. I just don't want to see him at the 5, and so what are we going to get from a Yabu Cat lineup? Man, it's a dicey situation. Yabu with Cat. we better have all our great perimeter guys out there if we're playing a lineup with Yabu and Cat. Um, I mean, thank God for Huck Porty and Mitch right now, man. I go to bed every night saying my prayers that we do have a healthy Mitch and a healthy Ariel Huck Porty, fam. They are the backbone of our D right now. Right. If we have an outstanding defense, obviously our wings and some of our guards, Deuce McBride and co, will help, and Brogdon maybe to a lesser extent. But if we have an outstanding defense, it's going to be because of our rim protectors, and our their ability to guard the pick and roll, their ability to navigate pick and rolls as well. I mean, we have two excellent defensive centers with Huck Porty and Mitch right now, man. Those guys are so important to our team right now. Johnny says Yabu, no center, not close. Yep. Yuri says there's a reason why Yabu is at the 4. Yeah, amen to that. A few people talking about Hart. I see Coach talking about Hart's role on the team. I think Hart's role is pretty safe for now. I think this season, though, I think there'll be a lot of questions beyond this season, with a championship kind of, lens looking at this season and needing to win a championship. I think next season with the Giannis talk, some heavily salaried guys on the squad, Mitch still, needing his extension. There's a lot of questions that'll go beyond this season, but I think right now, I think we're strapped in until the trade deadline. And look, things could be different come trade deadline. I mean, we might be overachieving, we might be underachieving. I mean, we don't know yet. I think we're going to start strong. I'm confident. Our starters are just elite. I think our top 8, our top 9 guys are just so good. If Mike Brown, I guess the challenge is if Mike Brown's going to play, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, that's where things could get a little bit messy, a little bit sloppy, and he might need to sort of cut some minutes down, a la Tibbs, kind of what Tibbs did early, and just establish that rotation and let guys get into a rhythm and rack up these wins. But yeah, look, as long as guys are playing, if they deserve their minutes, then they should play more. I think Huck Porty should be in that 10-man somehow. That's why I'm not really sweating Shamit so much. I think it's a needs basis right now. I think we need more big men rebounding more than we need another Shamit. So that's why I'm making the decision just to let Shamit walk right now. Again, if they traded Dardier, I said before I would understand. But obviously, like with the rotation we have right now, where is Shamit really fitting into that 10-man? You got Hart to return. So I'm keeping Kolek and I'm just letting Shamit walk right now, and we'll see. And obviously Matthews is an unlucky kind of guy. I mean, I know a team's going to snap him up. A team's going to snap him up right away, but like at the end of the day, is he in our 10-man? That's what you got to look at. My 10-man is obviously with Brogdon, and I want to get Huck Porty in there somehow as well. So that could be 11 right there with Deuce, Clarkson, Brogdon, and Yabusele and Huck and Hart. Right, that's 11 guys right there. So Shamit's not even in my 11-man rotation right now. And obviously Kolek, even Dardier, they're all situational. What's up, Simon? Says TKO is making that push for the backup point guard. Brogdon's too fragile and not to have another point guard. Yeah, I think Kolek made it tonight, fam. I think he made the squad. I know he's kind of already under a contract, but I think, yeah, that answers any cloud or any doubt. If we're being fair, you have to reward the guys that really performed. And I give that big shout out, to TKO for taking his chance, man. one of the best games he's played. I think from just an all-round perspective, with the rebounding, assists, and the playmaking as well. And look, every single game I see Kevin McCullough play, I really see flashes of, well, correct me, sorry, I see more than flashes. I see a guy that is capable of playing regular situational minutes. I see an NBA player when I see Kevin McCullough. He's just very productive defensively, and we need more players like that aren't shoot first. They'll do the dirty work. He could be the backup to Josh Hart. He'll rebound, 5 dimes, 2 blocks from Kevin in this one. Yuri says, I will say though, that we will win a lot of games with the talent, but it's clear the offense is going to take 15 to 30 games to understand. Yeah, Yuri, I agree with you 100%. I think it looks a little funky. We're kind of going to go in and out of streaks, but it is going to be exciting, when we're blowing teams out and it's clicking. And it's also going to be, nights like tonight with the starters where things just look a little bit funky. But the positive is we can go deeper into our bench and find some guys that are clicking if some other guys don't have it. Like, we could go defensively with lineups with Trey Jemison. Let's say, Mitch is injured or not, or out on a second night of a back-to-back. Tosan looks solid as well. I mean, he really looks like he's really pushing, Dardier and those guys. But yeah, let us know if you agree with my take about Shamet. Like, I love Landry Shamet and I appreciate what he did for us this season, but I just can't see him fitting into a top 11 man rotation. So I don't see why we should be so desperate to trade a young fella just to make room for a guy that's not even in the top 11 man rotation, right? Because Brogdon, you sign him, he has to play, right? He took that deal on the proviso that he's going to play. Clarkson's going to play. Deuce is going to play. Hart is going to play. Yabusele is going to play. Okay, Huck Porty so far, I think under Mike Brown, will be the 11th guy. Kolek could even be the 11th guy if you need more point guard. Then there's Huck Porty, and then it's Shamet. So you got to go all the way down to the 12th guy to even get to a Shamet. For me, but yeah, I think unless they just think, look, if there's an injury, Shamet's more likely to step up, whereas Dardier isn't. They could be looking at it from that perspective. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a battle, man. It's going to come down to possibly the final game. But like Ricardo said earlier, the fact that Shamet sat tonight with illness, that might be a hint. That might be a telltale sign that they're planning on keeping him. Yuri says, I will say that it's going to be very hard for the front office to make this decision before this weekend. Yep, you said it. I think Saturday's the cutoff, and I think, look, based on, it could just come down to whatever trade offer makes the most sense as well. I mean, let's look at it this way. They clearly like all of the guys that they have, right? They like them for various skill sets. Kolek, point guard, Dardier, young wing with upside. But it could just come down to a team making a phone call and saying, all right, we're going to give you more for this guy, or we're going to give you more for the other guy. Or if not, Shamet just gets cut. And so it's going to be very interesting. Simon J.A. says, I agree with you on Shamet. So appreciate you. Glad to hear that I'm not alone on that one. That's just the tough decision that has to be made, because I think we can all see some value that Shamet brings. But I just think that we're in a situation where we have what Shamet can provide in some other guys. And so we'll see how that plays out. Knicks one today says, can anyone explain to me why we have a riot? So it's basically just down to filling the camp roster, fam. So during training camp, you can fit 21 guys, and so he's just another body, I think, that we have out here, and I think he is going to go to Westchester, right? David with a super chat. Salute to David. David says we should not be sold on Deuce's shot and handles as well. And appreciate your thoughts, David, on this one. Yeah, Deuce, again, I think size limitations might just be Deuce's Achilles, his handles as well. I think his Achilles so far in his career. I think the shot, you got to give Deuce's credit for the way he's worked on his shot, and he's got that up to a very high level. But the handles and I think the size is still a limiting factor for Deuce McBride, unfortunately. And so we have some other guys that are dealing with some limitations as well. Tyler Kolek, though, showed tonight that he's still able to overcome the size and the handles obstacles and still be very effective with finding his teammates. With that one, David says, "Give me Shamit over Deuce as well." Hashtag championship. So David's a big fan of Landry Shamit and what he was able to provide us as well on the squad last season. I think the front office really likes Landry, man. I think they love Landry. And so, he's a great two-way player, a bit more size than Deuce. I think there was a report out from Ian Begley that we ain't going to trade Deuce. So, I would talk about that if there was a remote possibility, but I don't think they're going to trade Deuce. I think Ian dropped a story recently about, he's off limits. And so I think it is going to come down to a Dardier, Shamit or Garrison Matthews situation. And basically, Tyler Kolek took his chance in this one. Now, I can't see a team looking at Tyler Kolek's performance like tonight and upgrading some trade package to a crazy level, right? So on that in front, Kolek has way more value on the New York Knicks than he does in a potential trade. Even if it is just a second rounder or a couple of seconds, like, what's the point? We may as well keep him and make sure that we have a third string point guard in case, something happens to Brogdon. So my opinion is now Tyler Kolek makes the squad, and it's going to come down to one of these wings. D. Grant, though, says, I think this might be the last mark you see, might mark the last time you see a guy like a Tyler Kolek and Pacome Dardier in a Nick uni. Yeah, the decision has to be made, fam. And the fact that Shamit didn't play tonight, I think is very telling. Johnny says yes to Kev Jr. getting that spot. And Huck as well, man. Glad that we were able to sign Huck on the two-way and then we're able to give him the real deal. Look, shout out to Diawara. They could just be looking at him as the Dardier 2.0. There's only so many young guys that you can keep, I think, if you are trying to go for that hashtag championship, like David says. At the end of the day, guys, part of me is still thinking like I was in the ways back, thinking about developing and turning our draft picks into a stud and all of that. But we're just moving in a different direction right now. We're close to winning the chip, and we're contending right now. So I think you do got to make some tough calls right now. Yeah, D, I know the Giannis thing is definitely going to be a massive thing to watch this season, like all the way through to the trade deadline. You see the Bucks, man, they're trying to sign all of his brothers right now. Man, they're clutching at straws, fam. For those that missed it, basically you got ESPN reporting that, the Milwaukee Bucks, fam, they're signing all of the Antetokounmpo brothers, fam. It's crazy out here. As you know, Alex Antetokounmpo is now on a 2-way deal with the Bucks, right? Brian Windhorst is also saying when that report came out, some teams checked in with the Bucks, and the answer has been a resounding no, from what I'm told. So everybody is locked in on this year. But I don't believe that, fam. I don't believe that for a second. Because if the Bucks start poorly, you know that Giannis is going to get very, very frustrated. So that's definitely something to watch out for. Our coaching staff have been locked in, and we have Chris Gent, the associate. We've got Brendan O'Connor, our defensive coordinator. We've got Rick Brunson, Mark Bryant, Mo Cheeks, Darren Ehrman returning. And we have new guys, Ricardo Foy and TJ Saint, coming in with Larry Greer as an advanced scout. We also brought in a shooting coach, just coming in as well recently. I forget his name. So the New York Knicks have made a lot of additions, fam. As you see Sham saying, the Bucks are clearly doing everything they can to make Giannis comfortable, right? But look, you can only sign but so many brothers and sisters, fam. Like when it comes to the Bucks, right? If they ain't winning, Giannis is just going to get fed up, and winning can cure all. But if the Bucks can't win, I definitely think Giannis is out of there. I think sooner rather than later. I think this is definitely the last full season with Giannis in Milwaukee, right? So as we get ready to wrap this bad boy up, appreciate y'all rocking out with us tonight. Knicks took a major L on the scoreboard. However, a lot of learnings and a lot of scouting we take from this one, and also some props to the young fellas stepping up with Kolek, Tosan, Trey Jemison, McCullough, and Diawara. And Dardier had some flashes. But this Saturday, fam, Friday night, we'll be live post-game against Charlotte. Let's see what happens in the final dress rehearsal for the season. Charlotte, I think they'll be playing their starters as well, with LaMelo and Con Kneppel, the draft pick, and the rest of their guys, Brandon Miller. And I do think it's going to be a good test. And hopefully we can recap preseason with a big win and get ready for opening night. The following Wednesday, it goes down against Cleveland at MSG, right? Does Landry and Huck Porty return on Friday? I think so. Hopefully Josh Hart can get back in the groove quickly as well, right? So that he's not missing too much time when it comes to that, guys. But shout out to everyone in the building. Salute to the chat. Salute to Replay Squad. David for the super chat contribution. Appreciate you. And everyone else, have a blessed day, blessed night, and keep things buzzing. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.